Have you ever questioned why certain women, without speaking or drawing overt attention, emanate an irresistible presence that holds your gaze? This allure does not stem from beauty, social rank, or interpersonal charm. It comes from a deep inner power, genuine confidence. Not the practiced confidence of performance, but the kind born from an awakened self where mind, body, and spirit exist in harmony. Carl Jung described this as the return to the authentic primal self, untouched by societal pressures or emotional scars. A woman with authentic confidence not only understands her identity, but truly believes in it. This certainty is not derived from others' approval. Rather, it emerges from an inner journey where she confronts both her strengths and flaws, accepting them fully. What then gives rise to this remarkable self-assurance? And how can we liberate ourselves from the false image shaped by societal expectations? In today's discussion, I will share Jung's explanation of this concept and guide you in awakening the inner goddess within. Stay engaged. We are about to uncover this mystery together. The real question is, are you prepared to meet yourself? Comment 1. If you have ever sensed a quiet strength in someone that made you stop and take notice without knowing exactly why. Comment 2. If you've been curious about how to cultivate that kind of presence in yourself. Which side of the mirror do you find yourself on observing or radiating first, the often overlooked secret self-trust? Do you genuinely have faith in yourself? Not in moments when you are dressed impeccably or sharing a picture with the caption, "I'm fine," but in those quiet times when no one is observing, when no performance is expected, and it is just you facing the mirror. The reality is that most people do not deeply trust themselves. Even if we project strength, decisiveness, or inspiration outwardly when our social masks drop and night falls, doubt begins to seep in. We question our feelings, our decisions, and at times, our very being. Carl Jung observed that modern humanity does not primarily struggle with religion or morality, but with identity, a disconnection from our authentic self. Once that self is lost, the earliest casualty is the fundamental trust in our own reliability. The belief that our instincts are sound and that our inner voice serves as a trusted guide rather than an adversary. Picture yourself as a lighthouse amid a dense fog. If your light shines from an inner source, you can remain steady through any tempest. But if that light is fueled by external control, you will lose direction when the seas become rough. This is the condition of living without self-trust, when one's sense of worth depends on validation, compliments, or external commands. The fear of failure, judgment, or missteps arises here not due to inherent weakness, but from the habit of surrendering the authority to define yourself to others for far too long. You begin to reflect the voices of parents, societal norms, social media influence, and the culture of instant gratification. The risk lies in unconsciously repeating this cycle every day. You find yourself delaying even small decisions for fear of error. You consult multiple people for guidance only to remain uncertain and uneasy. You suppress your voice when something feels wrong because you doubt whether your emotions merit expression. You may have vowed to sleep early, yet find yourself at 100 a.m., bathed in the blue glow of your phone, aimlessly scrolling through content that holds little meaning. You might have promised to rise for yoga journaling or meditation, but end up justifying delay with reasons such as "I'm busy" or "I'll begin tomorrow." These seemingly minor instances are silent betrayals of the promises you make to yourself. Over time, they cultivate a subconscious belief that your inner voice is not worthy of being respected. Comment 1 if you've ever broken a small promise to yourself and felt a subtle shift in how much you trusted your own judgment. Comment 2 if you've experienced the opposite, keeping even a small commitment and feeling unexpectedly empowered. Which of these moments has shaped you more? Jung described this as living behind a social mask. Once self-trust is eroded, you start existing according to the image you believe others expect. As a result, the original, genuine, untamed, and sacred self is buried deep within the unconscious, left forgotten. True self-trust is not the shallow bravado marketed as girl boss or high value. It is an inner condition that enables you to withstand any storm without wavering, because you are certain of who you are and remain loyal to yourself. Like an ancient tree, it does not strive to grow taller to prove worth, but instead stands strong with deep, unshakable roots. A woman rooted in self-trust does not seek to impress. Her presence inspires respect, not through volume, but through the gravity of her quietude. Consider reality for a moment. How often have you acknowledged what you should do, yet acted contrary to it? How many times has your body clearly signaled anxiety, tension, or fatigue, but you forced yourself to continue to prevent disappointing others? When you repeatedly ignore your emotions, the link between mind and body begins to erode. You lose the sense of what feels right. Your intuition grows hazy, and choices become purely mechanical. You transform into a machine, fulfilling external expectations, but losing the ability to truly feel yourself. This is why self-trust cannot be learned from theory alone. It must be lived and embodied. To cultivate it, you must remaster a single essential skill: listening. This is not listening in order to respond or evade, but listening with the intent to truly hear the long neglected whispers of your soul after years of disregard. Self-trust is the courage to believe that your deepest fears are worthy of being acknowledged. It means trusting your intuition, even when it contradicts logic, and transforming your questions from "what do they think" to "what do I genuinely feel?" In Jungian psychology, individuals lacking self-trust are more easily overtaken by shadow archetypes. They become vulnerable to manipulation, plagued by self-doubt, and haunted by a constant feeling of inadequacy. Yet with self-trust, you regain command of your psychological framework. You cease to react on autopilot and instead respond deliberately, consciously, and with sovereignty. Here lies a profound truth. Self-trust gives a woman a magnetic presence, not in a purely seductive manner, but as a natural, compelling aura. As Jung suggested, self-trust is not merely a learned skill, but a sacred reconnection with the highest, deepest, and truest version of oneself. It cannot be granted by another. But if you are willing to pass through fear, challenge the deceptive voices in your mind, and face unhealed wounds, you can reach it. Allow these concepts to rest within you for a while. There is no need to immediately accept or reject them. Let them remain like seeds and observe what begins to awaken from within. When self-trust begins to awaken, even through a small act of honoring your emotions or stepping away from outdated expectations, you will encounter a powerful truth every woman holds within her two forces. One is the tender yet strong call of the authentic self. The other is the wounded whisper of unresolved pain. The true question is not whether you are feminine, but whether you are guided by the goddess within or by the fractures of your wounds. Number two, the distinction. A woman embodying goddess energy versus one operating from wound energy. Every woman contains two forms of feminine energy. One is nurturing and radiant. The other suffers quietly. One leads you closer to your authentic self. The other holds you in a defensive disguise. Though Jung did not use the term feminine energy, his ideas on the anima shadow and individuation distinctly separate a woman at peace with her inner life from one still directed by unresolved wounds. A woman in goddess energy is not necessarily gentle, submissive, or flawless. In fact, she holds a unique, quiet power, a deep presence that makes others feel safe in her space. She does not vie for attention, for she already belongs to herself. She carries the elegance of someone who knows her value without needing to proclaim it. She can refuse without fear, shed tears without shame, and love without surrendering her sense of self. She has journeyed through the fiery depths of her inner struggles and emerged not bitter, but wise. By contrast, a woman in wound energy exists in constant reactivity and self-protection. Outwardly, she may seem brilliant, captivating, or of high worth, yet within, she is a fragile girl, fearing abandonment, betrayal, or rejection. Her sense of value depends on external affirmation. Even minor slights can unsettle her. An unanswered message can trigger anxiety. Deep within her psyche lies an internal map of love drawn from unhealed emotional scars. Jung referred to these as psychological complexes, patterns born from early traumas or past hurts. They do not disappear, but instead conceal themselves within actions, words, and decisions that may seem accidental, yet are manifestations of unresolved wounds, longing for acknowledgement and healing. Picture two women walking into a gathering. The first moves with the ease of a gentle breeze, making no effort to attract attention, yet she holds your gaze effortlessly. Her eyes radiate calm, and her stance quietly affirms, "I am here." The second is just as attractive and striking, but there is a slight tension in her demeanor. Her eyes flit about checking who is watching, and her laughter rings a bit too loud, as though seeking acknowledgement. You might not be able to articulate the difference, but you can feel it. One is grounded in presence, the other in performance. A woman in goddess energy does not attempt to dominate circumstances. She simply experiences them. She does not push to lead, yet her mere presence inspires others to move more mindfully. In Jungian language, she has embarked on the process of individuation, the reintegration of ego with self, and of light with shadow. She no longer serves as a passive subject of archetypes, but engages with them intentionally. In contrast, a woman living in wound energy is frequently overtaken by unintegrated archetypes, perhaps the shadow, prompting her to overreact to traits she despises in others as they mirror parts of herself she cannot accept. Or she may be influenced by a less mature archetype, trapping her in illusions of a savior-like romance, seeking a partner to act as her emotional rescuer. Such women often fall into recurring cycles, choosing unsuitable partners, overworking, feeling deeply wounded by minor slights, and continually blaming themselves for perceived weakness. In reality, the issue is not weakness. They are simply operating from a place of wounds rather than from their authentic self. In Christian tradition, the Virgin Mary serves as a profound archetype of goddess energy. She wields no political influence and does not seek to persuade with words, yet her being exudes deep inner strength. Mary symbolizes acceptance, complete trust in divine will, and the ability to listen to the angel's message without fear or resistance, embracing her role with calm determination. By contrast, Eve, the first woman, offers another figure worth reflection. She is not inherently bad, but she embodies the archetype of a woman guided by wound energy and unexamined desire. She heeds the serpent, a lasting emblem of the unintegrated unconscious, acting not from deliberate choice, but from a murky mix of power-seeking curiosity and a longing to surpass boundaries. That action causes both her and humanity to enter a fallen state. According to Jung, when the shadow is repressed, it takes control from within. If you have ever acted not out of genuine desire, but from fear of being excluded, stop and notice. Record that moment in words, thoughts, or even a comment as a signpost for your journey toward living from your true self, rather than from old wounds. The crucial point is that no one enters life in a perfect goddess-like state. No one is flawless, eternally mindful, or constantly exuding positivity. Every person carries wounds and shadows. What sets people apart is their choices. As Jung expressed, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. A woman embodying goddess energy does not reject her darkness. Instead, she accepts, comprehends, and turns it into a source of strength. She has no need to prove her self-love because she treats herself as she would the dearest person in her life. This shows in how she speaks to herself. Each morning, refrains from self-blame when tired, establishes clear boundaries, and refuses to abandon herself, even if others do. Number 3. Jungian psychology on confidence. If goddess energy reflects a woman who has moved beyond her wounds, then confidence is the illumination that radiates from that path. From Jung's viewpoint, confidence is not empty affirmations, rigid posture, or a rehearsed smile. It is the natural result of a soul anchored in its center. Confidence is not manufactured, it awakens from within. Building upon the earlier discussion, contrasting a woman driven by her wounds with one guided by her authentic self, we now explore a theme Jung repeatedly touched on: true confidence cannot emerge unless the ego faces its shadow. Without embarking on the individuation process, and while the unconscious still exerts hidden control, genuine confidence remains out of reach. Picture a towering tree. The visible trunk canopy and fruit are only surface elements. Its true life force resides in its roots. A confident woman resembles such a tree, with roots embedded deep in the soil of her own soul. These roots consist of self-reliance, the embrace of both light and shadow, and the bravery to stop fearing herself. As a result, she feels no need to persuade others of her value. She already knows it. In Jungian, thought authentic confidence arises only when the ego ceases its effort to conceal wounds. An undeveloped ego works tirelessly to present a flawless image, resulting in performance and forced displays that do not reflect the true self. In such situations, one becomes tense and easily unsettled by minor remarks. A simple comment can undermine you. This is not real confidence. It is defensiveness wearing the mask of confidence. Such false confidence is so delicate that even one unusual look can shake it. Jung emphasized that genuine strength is found only when we venture into the deepest layers of the soul, where suppressed memories, unidentified complexes, and ignored shadows live. This descent is what makes ascent possible. Comment 1 if you've ever faced a personal descent confronting fears, wounds, or shadows and found new strength on the other side. Comment 2 if you've avoided that inner work out of fear, yet still feel the call to begin. Where are you now in that journey? Real confidence is not dependent on external light, but on the ability to enter the darkness without losing direction. This may be a time to stop, not to dissect or respond, but to sense what your body communicates as you read. You might observe a poised, accomplished, and respected woman. Yet when alone, she cannot endure her own silence. Like a grand structure lacking a foundation, the slightest tremor can destabilize her entirely. By contrast, a genuinely confident woman, even after failure or moments of being lost, draws from those experiences to deepen her self-awareness and pursue authentic healing. Jung referred to this as individuation, a process in which the ego explores the personal, unconscious, confronts its shadow, and reconnects with the true self. In this state, the ego is not destroyed, but restored to its proper function, not as a controlling master, but as a truthful representative of the inner life. From here, confidence emerges effortlessly like natural breathing, rather than as a facade. Carl Jung once remarked, "You are what you do not, what you say you'll do." This apparently simple phrase carries a profound psychological truth. Self-trust is not built on theory, but on consistent action. No mystical practice will instantly grant you unshakable self-belief, and no affirmation holds real power without corresponding action. Self-trust develops when there is alignment between your declared intentions and your actual behavior. In psychology, this idea connects to the concept of inner integrity, where a person experiences harmony rather than conflict between their intentions, emotions, and actions. For example, if you declare, "I'll start waking early tomorrow," but then hit the snooze button the next day, your mind does not simply register this as a minor lapse. It goes deeper. Your unconscious begins to lose faith in your words. When this pattern repeats, it becomes a type of unconscious conditioning, learned unreliability. Similar to a child raised by parents who often break promises, you eventually stop believing in commitments, even those you make to yourself. If you consistently fail to honor your commitments to yourself, both body and mind cease to expect fulfillment. Your intuition grows silent and motivation fades as trust in your inner voice erodes. In contrast, each time you keep your word, whether by completing a workout, drinking enough water, or resisting the urge to contact someone unworthy, you strengthen the internal bond of trust. Remarkably, your mind recognizes these moments instantly. Behavioral research shows that repeated actions form new neural pathways, enhancing feelings of control and stability. Through consistent follow-through, you begin to feel, I control my life, which nurtures inner security and eventually genuine confidence. True confidence then stems not from external validation, but from the certainty that you will not betray yourself. You do not require others' belief, praise, or recognition, only the knowledge that if I say I will do it, I will. This is the most solid foundation for confidence created through small, consistent daily actions rather than bold proclamations. From the viewpoint of behavioral psychology, keeping personal promises functions as a self-reinforcing system. Every fulfilled commitment generates an internal reward promoting control, independence, and self-worth. This process not only elevates self-esteem, but also trains the brain to develop realistic trust grounded in experience rather than in illusions or uncertain hopes. Picture yourself as both ruler and citizen of your inner world. If the ruler repeatedly makes and breaks promises, rebellion will rise, disorder will spread, and no one will heed commands. However, if every promise, no matter how minor, is honored, your internal society becomes harmonious, stable, and thriving. This is the mental environment in which confidence can naturally flourish. So how can you cultivate this resilient inner nation? How can you turn every personal promise into a foundation rather than a passing thought? The solution lies in the path we are about to begin practical steps to cultivate self-trust from within, developed gradually, sustainably, and genuinely. Number 4, the key to building self-trust. If each kept promise is a brick, then self-trust is the inner home constructed from them, and no home can endure without a solid foundation. Honoring your commitments to yourself may appear straightforward, but it is the crucial first step, laying the initial brick for a dependable self, a more grounded ego, and an inner life resistant to instability. The first secret: keep your promises to yourself. Envision climbing a psychological mountain, where each upward step represents a small personal commitment, such as rising early, maintaining your health, and ceasing comparisons with others. At times, these actions occur quietly, without acknowledgement or praise. Yet it is this silent repetition that forms a solid path you can confidently tread tomorrow. Staying true to your word not only develops discipline, but also shapes your identity. In deep psychoanalysis, especially in Jung's theory, honoring your own word serves as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious. Every fulfilled promise does more than improve you. It opens a doorway, linking the active ego with the deeper soul that longs for authenticity. This is not a one-sided exchange. When you keep your word, you signal to the unconscious that you are prepared. In turn, the unconscious, with its timeless wisdom, answers with clarity, intuition, and an inner autonomy that no external force can provide. A woman who yearns for greater confidence but continually fails to keep small commitments to herself, such as maintaining a gym routine, ending a toxic relationship, or refraining from self-criticism in public, might study books on confidence, watch instructional videos, and take meticulous notes, yet remain insecure. This is because, without being anchored in tangible action, all the knowledge she gathers is as fleeting as a passing breeze. The confidence she desires is not distant or elusive. It lies in the very first promise she makes and fulfills. Where should you begin? Not with sweeping commitments, but with small, steady actions. Here's a practical exercise to establish daily self-trust. First, choose 3 simple promises to keep over the next week. They must be modest, clear, and measurable. For instance, if you usually rise at 8 a.m., don't aim unrealistically for 5:30 a.m. Instead, opt for achievable adjustments, such as waking at 7 a.m. 5 times a week, journaling for 5 minutes each night, or avoiding social media after 10 p.m. Write these promises down and keep them visible to reinforce them in your subconscious. This transforms vague aspirations into tangible commitments. The next step is to record each fulfilled promise. More crucially, allow yourself to experience the quiet yet potent feeling of "I did what I said I would." This sensation signals to your nervous system and subconscious that inner trust is being restored. The last most vital step is not to punish yourself if you miss a day, just continue. Self-trust grows through persistence and sincerity, not flawless execution. Each time you refuse to quit, you affirm to your body and mind, "I'm worth returning to." After a week, you may set larger goals or keep the same 3 promises, enriching their depth. For example, if journaling, you could include a line describing your emotions. Gradually, you extend your confidence not through bold statements, but through consistent, respectful small actions. Secret 2: sharpen your intuition. After establishing a foundation through promise keeping, you may feel more stable and grounded, but that's just the surface. Beneath lies an unclaimed well of primal insight intuition. While keeping promises builds trust, intuition is the quiet pathway between you and your deeper self. Carl Jung identified intuition as one of 4 core psychological functions alongside sensation thinking and feeling. Yet modern society has almost lost it, not because it vanished, but because we've neglected to hear it through the body. Intuition doesn't communicate through logic. It comes as a gentle brush of air across your skin, a weight in your chest near someone untrustworthy, or a light expanding feeling when you enter a space that suits you. The trouble is, we give precedence to reason and data, sidelining the body, the keeper of all lived memories and experiences from our inner conversations. Jung suggested that what we recognize as intuition is often the unconscious conveying information to the conscious mind via bodily sensations. If you've sensed someone's dishonesty from a handshake or felt uneasy entering a room for no clear reason, that's intuition murmuring. Yet, like any relationship, it strengthens only when you prove through listening that you won't disregard it. To reconnect, you must return to its home, your body, not as a machine to adjust, but as a living map offering daily guidance. Developing intuition doesn't demand mysticism or enlightenment. It begins simply by paying attention to your body's signals in the smallest moments. For instance, before deciding, resist the urge to collect multiple opinions. Sit quietly for 3 minutes, place a hand on your chest, breathe deeply, and ask, "If I choose this, how will it feel in my chest?" A light chest, warm heart, and open body may indicate the right choice. Anxiety Stomach knots or a stiff neck could signal you're pushing towards something against your inner truth. These physical cues are not accidental. They are the unspoken language of the unconscious, shaped by countless life experiences stored within your body's reflexes. Here's another 7-day, straightforward, yet impactful practice. Each day, find a quiet moment. Remove distractions. Sit still and ask yourself, what is my body feeling? Avoid analysis or judgment. Just notice. Write a single descriptive word. Over time, your perception will sharpen, and at a pivotal decision point, you'll simply know because your body will have become a trusted ally. Secret 3. Establish boundaries to safeguard your inner trust. At this stage, an inevitable shift occurs. You begin to recognize what harms you, things you previously ignored. This isn't because the world has suddenly worsened, but because you've ceased numbing yourself, pretending everything is fine, or ignoring your inner warnings. In this awakened state, you need a crucial form of protection boundaries. Carl Jung saw boundaries not as mere social skills, but as spiritual practices. He believed each interaction with the outside world mirrors your inner state. Allowing others to continually intrude, belittle, or harm you is not just weakness, it signals a fragile self-worth. When boundaries break down, self-trust crumbles. How can you trust someone who fails to protect themselves, even if that person is you? Picture yourself as the guardian of a sacred temple containing your intuition, clarity, identity, and dreams. If you allow just anyone to enter, create disorder, or bring manipulative, draining energy, you desecrate that sanctuary. Boundaries are not about resisting others, but about safeguarding the inner foundation you fought to build. In psychology especially, trauma therapy, a lack of personal boundaries often stems from self-worth injuries in childhood. These individuals were raised in settings where their boundaries were violated or over-controlled, their emotions dismissed, or they were compelled to please others to be loved. As adults, they repeat these patterns, submitting, shrinking themselves, remaining silent, and enduring mistreatment as if it were the only means to survive. So how do you start? Here's a concrete daily exercise for practicing personal boundaries. Step 1. Identify 3 recent events that left you feeling drained, uneasy, or exhausted. Record them in detail. Who was involved, where it happened, how you felt, and what actions you took or avoided. This clarifies where your energy is leaking and your boundaries are being crossed. Step 2. Starting tomorrow, implement a small boundary in a minor situation. Decline a call when you're tired. Delay replying to a message if you need space. Or mute your work group chat when energy is low. Pay attention to your body. You might feel anxious initially, but pushing through can release a fresh wave of energy. Step 3. Each evening, note one action you took to uphold your boundaries. The size of the act doesn't matter. Just recognize it. It could be as simple as, today, I didn't let myself be swayed by flattery, or today, I didn't apologize for my feelings. Jung wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain, and setting boundaries may unsettle both you and others. Yet this discomfort signals that you're starting to live with awareness. Each time you set a boundary, you not only guard your inner trust, you also strengthen it daily. Number 5, the impact of a woman with self-trust. Each protective action, a quiet no, a retreat from unseen exhaustion, nurtures something within that you might not notice at first. A light from within starts to shine beyond your skin. When that light meets the air or the eyes of others, it sparks change. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." A woman with self-trust is like a subtle, unseen catalyst, able to purify an entire room. She enters not by preaching or deliberate persuasion, but by embodying deep authenticity that can inspire with nothing more than a nod. In psychology, this is termed emotional regulation via the sympathetic nervous system. When a calm, grounded nervous system fosters a sense of safety in others simply through presence. In other words, you need not speak. People sense your stability. You enter a room without flashy clothes or the need to demand attention. Yet people notice something, a quiet magnetism. This isn't from performing, but from no longer trying to prove yourself. You show up as you are whole, authentic, and unapologetic about existing. And this full self-acceptance prompts others to reflect inward. You resemble a resonating chamber, empty in the purest way, yet able to make everything around you vibrate in harmony. When another woman, dulled by life's noise, steps into your presence, something inside her stirs gently. This is not because you project energy, but because you do not suppress it. You create a still, calm space where she can hear her own true tone, one she once believed was broken off key or flawed. A self-trusting woman becomes a quiet place of healing for other women simply by being authentic. She inspires effortlessly. By having the courage to stand in her imperfections, to say no when her heart resists, and to choose herself over pleasing others, she communicates a clear message. You can do this too. From Jung's perspective, this woman represents the healer or guide archetype, not by rescuing anyone, but by healing herself. Jung believed that everyone carries dormant archetypes in the unconscious, and by living authentically, you awaken them in others. You don't merely transform yourself, you spark the possibility of transformation in those nearby. The influence of a woman with self-trust is not as glaring as stage lights. It is more like a hidden underground stream, quietly nourishing seeds in others that have yet to grow. The respect she earns is not born of fear or flattery, but from the deep sense others feel. With her, I can be myself. In the end, self-trust may not be a fixed destination, but an ongoing relationship to tend each day. It means remaining with yourself, not only in moments of radiance, but also in times of chaos, conflict, or uncertainty, like a lasting friendship. Self-trust deepens with patience. In those moments, when you choose to remain true to yourself, even if it's as simple as letting a sigh suffice. A woman who has faith in herself is not without fear. She merely refuses to let fear take control. She does not chase external approval because her very being serves as the answer. This is a subtle strength requiring no proclamation, only genuine living. Comment 1 if you've already started the process of building unshakable self-trust and can feel the changes within. Comment 2 if you're ready to take your first small step today. Which path will you choose, to continue as you are, or to meet the deeper self waiting within? If this journey has stirred something within you, please like and subscribe to stay engaged with upcoming videos. Not just to follow, but to sustain an honest, persistent, and deeply respectful dialogue with yourself.